Our next item on the agenda will be a sort of a panel discussion of the BIA, the Timber Task Force Group, and the Central Office Timber Team. And the presentation for that is being moderated or kind of driven by Caleb Cain, Project Forester with BIA. So, and then he'll also introduce the other people who are talking about the timber team. But Caleb Cain is the Projects Forester, a member of the Cherokee Nation, has worked for BIA in the Rocky Mountain region for the last 20 years in various positions. He was the regional forester for the previous 10 years and worked at Crow and Wind River Agency for 7 years. Caleb started his career as a Pathways intern while attending Oklahoma State University, and he's currently working with the newly established timber team, which I think we're all kind of very interested to see how that's progressing and what they can do for us and how that works. But so Caleb Cain.
All right, good morning. And ITC, thank you for having this. TCC, thank you. It's been a couple of years, as Cody said, and good to see everybody in person in Alaska. So yay. All right. Now this thing ain't working. It worked a while ago. Sorry, it was working during the break. I think we broke it. All right, well, they're figuring that one out here. So I'm going to go with the bios for Ryan and Hilary. Hey, there it is. So Ryan Frandino has been a supervisory forester for the BA Timber Strike Team. He started in November of 2020. Prior to that, he was a pre-sale forester for the Medicine Bow Route National Forest on the Brush Creek Hayden Ranger District in Saratoga, Wyoming. He was also a forestry technician for Show National Forest in Cody, and a biological science technician for Kings Mountain National Military Park in Blacksburg, South Carolina. Ryan started his forestry career as an intern on the Wind River Reservation in the summer of 2013. He obtained a bachelor's degree in forest resource management from the Clemson University. So Hilary over here is a forester on the Timber Strike Team, based out of Billings. Prior to that, she's worked as a forestry technician for the BLM and an inventory forester for the Forest Service FIA program with the state of Tennessee. Hilary has a bachelor's degree in forestry from the University of Tennessee. And on the photo here, we have two other team members. Garrett McFall has a bachelor's from University of Tennessee, and Wesley Statz has a master's degree from the University of Kentucky. So that's our current staff that we have employed with the timber team as of right now. In 2019, the Bureau Director approved the Timber Strike Team. Previous to that, we was pushing to have this team developed earlier. Went through a couple of chief foresters. They said no. Pete came on board and was able to actually get this stuff moving. And so 2019 is when the director of the BA signed the memo approving it, and they're based out of Billings, Montana. So timber team or timber strike team, it's all the same. Whatever you want to call us, we'll answer to it. But the initial paperwork was timber strike team, and I get lazy over the years, and I call it the timber team now. But whatever you want to call them, we'll answer. The foundational objective of this thing here is to help our agencies with their GEPR goals, prepare all for timber sales. And when it was, like I said, initially pushed out, we was trying to help programs that are struggling. Need a shot in the arm, need 5, 6, 7 people show up for a week or two. It can make a world of difference on our smaller programs who's struggling to get work out. And that was really the big push for me, coming from a region that was struggling on that end. And just having the extra help has just been huge. And I hope you guys are able to see that with the presentations and some of the work they've been doing over this past year. Project work consists of timber sale prep. Mainly it's timber sale prep, and GIS and inventory has been their main focus right now. We would like to try to move into contract administration. It just hasn't materialized yet. Forest development still on the docket of if you need projects laid out, they are there to help, or even to monitor a project in the FD world. They can sure enough get that one rolling. So these folks here all started in November of 2020. So if you think back to that date of June 19th of 2019, it took us over a year to get people hired and to finally show up in Billings. It's not a quick process in the government to try to start something and get things rolling. So November 2020 is when they all showed up. Our capacity is a 7-person crew, all foresters, different backgrounds. Currently right now, mainly from the east side of the U.S. is where their educational background came from, but they're getting their experience out west, and it's been good. So the current makeup is 1 GS11 and 6 GS9, GS9 460 foresters. Part of this thing here is like we've been talking about workforce development for years at ITC. We've talked about them in different meetings of getting our folks trained up, getting them where they need to be at in the forestry world of it all. And so, you know, with that one there, we have the team development. They're getting some great experience working out, doing what they're doing in the field. And then we're also looking at the agency and tribal development. So if you have people that want to come take a rotation with the timber team and gain that experience, it's open. Come work with them. We have a schedule lined out through the rest of the calendar year. And we know where we're going. Come help us. We'd love to have you. I mean, we'll take techs, foresters, I don't care, whatever you got. If you want to come get some paint on you, we'll take you. You know, the other side of that thing is the Pathways program. This year we have 2 forestry pathway interns working with the timber team. We had 2 last year also. And, you know, just their development through the whole summer working that, once they graduate college, they're going to be able to hit the ground running with the skill sets that they have, which is, I think, huge. And, you know, with that one there, we're hoping to be able to have a placement for some of them when they do graduate, have a place where they can go and cut their teeth in the forestry world and get to moving. And I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Thank you, Caleb. All right, so I'm going to go over some of the overview for what our presentation entails, and then I'll go over a couple of details and kind of talk about more specifics on what our capabilities are, how to request us, and then we'll talk about some of the expectations that we have when we show up to an agency or a tribe to help do some of this work. And then we'll go over some of the completed projects we've done for fiscal year 21 and 22 up to date. And then our 22 schedule is pretty packed full. And so we'll go over some examples of what they have going for us going forward. And then, yeah, like Caleb said, if there's any chance you guys want to jump on a 2-week detail and help us out, whether it's marking or GPSing, cruising, you name it, it'd be awesome. We could use the help. And I think you guys would enjoy it. We see a lot of really cool places. So our primary objective for the timber team is to kind of help those smaller agencies where they have maybe 1 forester on staff and really need the help doing the groundwork for some of these projects. Timber sale prep, we've gone to areas and they gave us a track of area and we're like, we need help. What do you recommend us do? So we'll go through and we'll do the unit layout and we'll do boundary marking, we'll GPS, we'll turn those GPS files into GIS files and create maps, and we'll do internal marking and cruising while we're at it. So timber sale prep is kind of our #1 priority for when we help out agencies. Some of the sale types that we work on, green sales, so if you have anything that's pre-commercial thinning or there's a beetle outbreak and you want to do a sanitation cut, you know, we have expertise doing that. So we'll come out to that agency and we'll help get the ground running for that stuff. Smaller permits, firewood sales, things of that nature. We've had experience doing that. Trespasses, we've only worked on 1 trespass, and that was in eastern Oklahoma where we did a stump cruise on like 230-acre track. And that was actually one of our first trips, and that was a lot of fun, great learning experience. And then fire salvage is probably the really big one. We tend to leave the fall schedule open for any like last minute wildfire activity that has happened, and then the agencies want us to come in and kind of clear out that dead stuff in salvage mode. So we had quite a bit of salvage projects on Flathead and Colville and a couple places in Utah. And so very well diverse in different types of timber sale activity. We also do stand exams in CFI. We've helped out mostly the Great Plains region with some of their CFI inventory projects, and then we've done stand exams in Wisconsin, and we've got a couple of trips planned. We'll talk about that later on in the presentation for Washington State, and yeah. And then we also, when we're not traveling and we're home in Billings doing our telework, we will help agencies with their GIS capabilities. We'll do stand delineation, drawing, and help them map out their resources. And most recently, we had one project we did for Metlakatla here in Alaska. And we had a forester that went out there a couple weeks ago to kind of ground truth what we did as far as the GIS drawing on ArcGIS Pro. So requesting the timber team, this is kind of small. I don't expect you guys to be able to read this all, but basically there's a form that you got to fill out, and it's what type of project do you want the timber team for, whether it's forest development or it's inventory or sale prep, anything along those lines, GIS, project name, the location where you guys are wanting us to get requested to, usually a primary contact. We'll need someone, email, phone number that I can get in touch with personally to kind of plan out the logistics for these trips. And then an estimated acreage, crew size, how many of the timber team you want. There's been times where we send 2 folks off to help an agency. They only needed a couple hours of manpower, or the whole team will come out for 2 to 3 weeks to help out a large scale timber sale. Estimated duration, this is a really important one. There's been agencies that request us for 150 days. Well, I'm not going to move across the country for 150 days straight. So we try to do that 1 to 2 week time period. So keep that in mind when you're requesting the timber team. And then if you have staff available, that's a really big one. We kind of go to an agency, we have 1 to 2 guys kind of show us access points and hand us maps and things like that nature. And then it's nice to have them guide us for a couple of days. After that, usually once we get an idea of what we're doing, we hit the ground running without supervision. And then just any other details you have about the sale or the cruise, silvicultural prescriptions, marking guidelines, things of that nature. And so and then the big one is lodging. Try to find an area that supports the GSA per diem rate. So there's been times a year too, you got to think about that. You want to avoid tourism season and high costs of hotel lodgings. But everything's covered from the central office. You don't pay for any of that stuff. You just provide the information to us, and then we take care of that on our end. So it's a really, really great resource. But if you have any projects in mind going forward that you think you need some assistance with, make sure you submit that form to your regional director or your regional forester. They will then send it to Caleb. Caleb sees it, deems approved, then I'll contact you individually and we'll start talking logistics and time frames and things of that nature. So some of the expectations we have, so once your regional director or regional forester approves the project, they'll send that request over our way, and then I will contact you individually. Things that we need before we arrive on these trips are any type of geo-referenced maps that we use for PDF Avenza. That's kind of our main form of kind of navigating through sale areas and kind of locating the project areas. A print-off of Google Earth is not a map, so please refrain from doing that. So upon our arrival, day one, we'll meet with the local agency. We'll go over safety protocols. We'll make sure the locals know that the timber team's on site, traveling through. We don't carry paint personally, but we do have paint guns and all the field instruments that you would need for any type of sale prep. So usually the agency will provide us with paint and then any marking guidelines and civicultural prescriptions to kind of guide us in what they want us to do for that week. And then any other supplies you can think of that we might need. If you think we need snowshoes, let us know. We have snowshoes. If we need tire chains, let us know. We've got that. If we need a chainsaw or radios, things of that nature, let us know, and we'll try our best to accommodate that situation for the trip. And having the local staff available is really, really important. It's important to know that we are here to assist you, not necessarily just take over the job by ourselves. So anytime we've noticed that, anytime there's 1 to 2 local guys that want to come out, either learn from us or assist us in any way, that really speeds up the process to make for a really successful trip. Typically, we try to do those 1 to 2 week trips. Usually, if it's within a 16-hour drive time, then we'll try to take our personal timber team trucks with all of our outfitted gear. There are certain situations where if it's more than a 2-day drive, we will fly to see you guys, rent vehicles, and then meet you at the agency. And then we do work 10 to 12-hour shifts. We've worked longer, we've worked shorter. It's really what you guys want us to do. And then we try to work weekends too. So every now and then we get to a really cool spot and we want to check out some local attractions while we're on travel. But for the most part, yeah, we try to work Saturdays and Sundays. So, and there's usually some availability for us to kind of help fund you guys to work weekends too, if it came down to it. So, really, really awesome opportunity out there for you guys to request us or join us. So some of the things we've completed this past year, 115 CFI plots on 3 reservations, 180 stand exams, a couple of reservations there. We prepped almost 3,300 acres of timber sale cutting units across 8 reservations. A lot of individual trees crews, from conifers to mixed hardwoods. Almost 5,000 stumps we counted in that trespass, and then we did almost 600,000 acres of stand mapping, cover type mapping on GIS Pro. So all of our foresters are really well knowledgeable about GIS technologies, and then anything from the sale prep side of things and CFI. And if you need us to come out and cruise a hardwood stand without leaves in the middle of winter, we'll do it. We've done it. So some of the projects we've done so far for FY22, we were at the Flathead Reservation in Montana. We helped those guys prep some of their salvage operations, and additionally cruised 106 plots in about 2 weeks. Laid out about 400 acres of salvage cutting on the Colville Reservation in Washington. We were there for about 5 weeks in November and then into December. And so, yeah, we work year-round regardless of weather. We are prepared for any type of situation. We try to stay in the warmer climates in the wintertime. I think we almost had a trip planned in Florida last year, but that fell through. So, and then we were off in Catawba and Cherokee, South Carolina, North Carolina this past January, and helping those guys out, doing some monitoring and sale prep and cruising and things of that nature. So we go all over the country. I think I had a question from an individual yesterday, and it's like, what's the hardest part in adapting to situations where you have different species and products on this side of the country versus this side of the country? And we're all foresters at the end of the day. It's like, it takes 1 or 2 days where that local assistance helps with species identification and ground types and things like that. But we adapt quick, and it's been awesome. It's been a fun time. And then just recently we were in eastern Oklahoma doing some, they had a tract of land on the Thalapaloco property, and they wanted to know our recommendations. It's never been managed before, so the timber team went out and we kind of grid through and we looked at the resources and the cover type and then the ground and made recommendations on, hey, you could put a timber sale here, or hey, this would be better if you managed it for white-tailed deer populations or things of that nature. So we do our best for all aspects of forestry recommendations. And then we were in Umatilla Reservation a couple weeks ago, helped those guys with some internal tree marking, and then I don't think there's a slide for it, but we were on the Standing Rock Reservation doing CFI just this past week, and then I made a joke about we wanted to stay a couple days later in Alaska to see the sights, but unfortunately I got a work trip scheduled on Sunday, so as soon as I get back, travel again. That's what we're all about. And then we're going to talk about a couple of specific projects, more detailed in what we've done and what we're capable of doing. I'm going to hand this over to Hilary Chittom, and she'll go over a couple of slides and details on what we've done so far and to kind of give you a better idea of what you can expect from our work ethic and our knowledge. So thank you.
Hey, my name's Hilary. I'm a forester on the timber team, and we've gotten to travel a lot this year, completed a bunch of projects, but I'll be talking about 4 of them specifically and going over project highlights and giving you detailed summaries of each. So the first one I'm going to talk about was for the Metlakatla Indian Community of Alaska. This was a forest cover type mapping project we did back in October. And this map shows about 132,000 acres of stand mapping. And each stand was delineated by species and size class and stocking with a maximum allowance of about 120 acres per stand. And this map here just gives you a closer look at how we delineated each stand. There's labels on there, but you can see they range in gradient from stocking and size class. We did a similar project for the eastern Oklahoma region back in February of 2021. And this was working on stand cover types for several tribes in that area. But the goal of this project is, once we get it done, it'll be attributed in GIS, and this should give the Northwest region kind of a comprehensive data set for future sale and planning. So this next project was the Flathead Agency, Confederated and Salish Kootenai Tribes. We helped out last October on the Boulder Fire salvage sale. And this area was about, 2,230 acres. On that map there, on the west side, that was the units we worked on as part of the salvage. And on the east, those units there were included for sanitation purposes. We were marking leaf trees and doing boundary flagging, mainly for retaining all whitebark pine and then western larch and ponderosa pine, free of dwarf mistletoe. So that was a cool project. Oh, my microphone's down. Yeah, so all in all, we completed about 100 cruise plots on the salvage and sanitation area, and the leaf trees, thank you. Is that what you wanted? Yeah. Keeps on going down. Appreciate it. Those leaf trees I mentioned, completed about 60 acres of that, and then also on the sanitation side, there were 77 acres repainted and flagged and cruised on very steep, dense terrain, but a total estimated volume for the sale was about 8,000 board foot per acre. This next project was for the Hickory Agency in northern Pueblos Picaros. This was 2 separate projects within close proximity of each other. The team worked on the Los Coates sale out of Dulce, New Mexico, and then the bison timber sale for the northern Pueblos Picaros. For the Los Coates sale, we were working with, it was mature ponderosa pine, doing boundary layout, GPS, and marking. And with the help of a few Southwest regional foresters there. And then after that second week, a few team members traveled down to Picaros, Northern Pueblos, to help on the bison timber sale. And there they did about the same thing, leaf tree marking, GPSing. They implemented a sample tree cruise and made some alterations to the existing layout. So for the Los Coates sale, we completed about 1,500 acres of layout marking and GPS. And the team members who worked on the bison timber sale completed 230 acres. So this last project I'll be talking about was for the Winnebago Agency, which serves the Omaha and Winnebago tribes of Nebraska. This was last year. The team traveled over to Sioux City, Iowa, to help the Rocky Mountain Regional staff on 2 projects. The first was a continuous forest inventory, and the second was working on the Speedway East Black Walnut sale on the Omaha Reservation. And for the CFI, we were working in remeasuring upland and lowland hardwoods. It took about 9 days between the Rocky Mountain Regional staff and the team and BOFARP as well. And for the Black Walnut project, the goal of this was to release those younger and suppressed trees. So we were looking at black walnuts and doing some hardwood grading for defect and broken tops, giving them a lumber value, I think it was veneer 1 through 3 or lumber grade 1 through 3. And the team completed that in about 2 days with the help of the Rocky Mountain Regional staff and Winnebago Agency. And that was a really cool project to work on. Yep, so all in all, that was just a couple trips, but I hope it kind of gives you an overview of what we've completed and what we can accomplish going forward on our project requests. And next is the project plans, which I believe Ryan will go over. I have to raise this up.
So right around the time of January, we were pretty wide open with our schedule, and we made a couple calls to some of the regions, and then all of a sudden we were booked from January through about end of September. So we are definitely jam-packed with different projects. In May, we're going to help Fort Belknap. They had a pretty bad fire there last year, so we're going to help them try to salvage some of that, turn it into timber sale or smaller permits. May, June, we're going to do some, like I said, I'll leave on Sunday coming up for some more CFI. We've got the Cheyenne River and Siston measurements. Cheyenne River is kind of cool because during my first internship in 2013, I established those plots. And so now I get to go back and see what I messed up on 10 years ago. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be cool. June, we're going to send a couple of folks, one of our Pathways interns, we're going to send them to fire rookie school, and so they can kind of get some fire certifications and maybe do some bear assignments in the future. And then we're heading to Macaw to do some stand inventory in Northwest Washington. And then that same trip, we'll be heading over to the Suquamish tribe to help them do a timber cruise for a sale they're trying to prep. And then July, it's more Fort Belknap fire salvage prep. And then we're going to head to Coquille in southwest Oregon. So we're looking forward to that trip as well. And then, let's see, going back to, we were in Umatilla a couple weeks ago helping them with the internal marking, and then we're going to go back in August to cruise all of that to help those guys prep that sale. And then September, we'll be with Flathead Reservation for a couple of weeks, helping with some more additional sale prep. And September, August, we'll be at Fort Belknap again. And then, like I said earlier, October to December is kind of when we leave that open for those fire salvage projects to kind of come in. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not a bad fire season. As everyone knows, it already is a bad one. So there's definitely going to be some work available going forward to help salvage those projects, and that's what we're here for. And then I'm going to hand this back over to Caleb. He's going to kind of do the closeout for our timber team. And like I said, going forward, We are here to help you guys. Any project you think you might want, send it our way and we'd be happy. Our schedule's kind of wide open after that, this next year. So 2023, 24, going forward, if you think of projects, let us know. We'd love to come help you. Caleb?
This last fall, we sat down with the staff and tried to do an after-action review for running with the team for about a year, just to see what was working, what wasn't working. And things that come up here was, they're traveling for about 6 to 8 months a year. And when we first ran this thing, we was doing assignment after assignment after assignment. And when you're on travel for 5 weeks straight, it gets a little tough to come home and try to get bills paid and have an actual life outside of work. So what we looked at was doing breaks in between assignments. And that's why we've been pushing here is 1 to 2 week assignments, and that's about it. We go longer than that. It causes some issues on that side. And so that was a huge part on that one, is the travel side. On the work assignments, from the feedback from the staff is on-site assistance. If you have staff that's there, help. Please help. It goes a long ways by having that local knowledge and people there for it. Establishing meeting location contacts, and the rough one to say is be on time. When we say we're going to be there at 7 o'clock to meet at whatever location, let's be there at 7 o'clock. If not, it just causes some issues, and our progress down the road just not going to be where it needs to be at. So, again, local staff availability. We're there. We plan these things out months in advance. I know things come up, but have your staff available if you have the staff there. If we have 5 people show up and all of a sudden you have a staff of 3 or 4 or 10, we can get more work done. The fire world does great at this one. If a fire breaks out, everybody shows up and works, right? Well, forestry, something happens, I better take leave this week. And it just caused a problem. So have your folks available if possible. The written guidance and instructions, have silviculture prescriptions handy, have marking guidelines available, have maps there for them. They're more than likely not from where we're working at. Again, the Google Earth map probably ain't gonna work too well. I can't quite find the blue dot on that map. So have some written documentation for the staff on that end. And the last part here is have extra work available. They can start moving. You've seen the legs on Ryan. Good grief, he can move up and down a hill. Like I said, when they're coming through and cruising, you might think, well, we might be doing X amount of plots a day. There's a chance that we will probably exceed your expectations on what can be done. So have a plan A, plan B, plan C on that one, and just having that extra work is very key. We've had times where they requested us for a week and they're done in day 2. And they were like, well, what are we doing now? So have that part ready to roll. Another side of here on what we've been kind of looking at is staffing. So everybody started in November 2020, and we're currently down 3 people. The turnover is a little more than what I was expecting. I was figuring probably close to 3 years people would leave. Well, we're looking at now about 1.5 to 2 years. I mean, we're burning through staff, and it's a rough life. I mean, being on the road that much, if you have a home life, a family, it's going to be tough to be able to keep these folks around. And that's something we're going to have to figure out on our end of how can we maintain that staffing level of 6 to 7 people all the time. You get a couple of people gone, and then we have to work through the HR process, and we're a year out of hired staff again. Another one is scheduling. Not just scheduling for work assignments, but they also have a personal life. They want to go attend somebody's wedding. Maybe they want to go deer hunting during the fall. So we got to now turn around and work through that. We have holidays that we have to work around. So our scheduling part becomes kind of a cluster, and Ryan has, I think, got a couple more gray hairs over it in the last year. Sorry, bud. Another side is training. COVID didn't help much on this side of it all, but we wasn't able to get him into the classes that we would like to be able to get him into, starting out as a government employee. We just miss a lot of training. Anytime we go into training, well, that's one less assignment they're going to be able to work on that end. So it's something we got to figure out how to juggle and get them through the required training they need to have. And another thing we've struggled on is the mentoring side. We just don't have enough bodies on that end to be able to fully mentor, our staff coming through this program. And the mentoring also can be at the agency level when we show up and work. If you all have somebody that wants to come and shadow Ryan, shadow Hilary for the week, that's always an opportunity that we would like to try to see moving forward. Another one is BEAR. We had a great idea last year to have all of our staff certified under BEAR so we could be helping Daryl Martinez work on as a forester on that end. Well, by the time fire rookie school come up, we're down 3 people, and it ain't gonna happen. So still one of our priorities, we would like to be able to have this timber team available for BEAR assignments, and if you've had any of them issues over the last few years, it's a huge thing having a staff come in and help them with the BEAR stuff. So for planning, for you all here, think about 1 to 2 years out. If you send a request in, I need you guys here next month, it ain't gonna happen unless priorities change within the region on that end. But we had a request this year, it came in, I think it was 15 months ahead of time. We want you guys in August of 2022. Well, they made the list. There was nobody else written down for it. So think on the out years out for that side. Another side of it here is we have 12 regions in the BIA in 12 months. If each region submitted a project request, we're looking at 2 weeks a year within that region. Like this year, they have multiple trips within the Northwest, in the Rocky Mountains so far. Well, that's due to other regions not submitting project proposals. And that's hopefully going to be an issue down the road, so we're able to get to all 12 regions. But as of right now, it's not happening, but it will be an issue down the road at one point. And from that point, it's going to be up to the regional foresters to start prioritizing projects. You might want to buy your regional forester a beer or something next time you're out to butter them up to put your project on the top. I don't know, but it's going to be one of the things looking at. And like I said, 1 to 2 week assignments, and we are currently accepting proposals for 23, 24. Give me one for 25. That'd be kind of a fun one to throw on a schedule. But so we have about 27 minutes left. I tried to stall it as much as possible. And Phil cannot ask questions, I know for sure. Okay, so funding-wise, Ryan briefly covered this one, but the staff is fully funded off the top through central office. So if they show up to your agency, you're not responsible for any sort of funding on that end. There's funding available out there to the regions who want to help support the timber team. You could put a request into your regional forester saying, hey, I need X amount of funds to send somebody for a trip or whatever, an assignment. We can fund that on your end. Whether it's full salary, travel, overtime, whatever you need, we can go that route. If it's just maybe covering travel and overtime, that's all available. I say they're free, but it comes off the top. So somebody loses on the end on one side, and for central office, instead of just having one region, it's just divided equally between all 12 regions. So that's been a kind of a huge part, is the funding side. When we first went through this, we was talking with the Forest Service, who has a timber strike team, and they was trying to leave the burden on the individual units, what do you call it in the Forest Service? Districts to pay for it. And, there's no way that I can go to an agency that has one forester that has $115,000 a year and expect them to pay for a timber team. It's just not going to happen. So it's all off the top. And so for the most part, think of it as free. And yeah,